Welcome to the Don Pod, the supporters podcast. Here's your hosts, Sam and Nate.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
The Dons go to Perth and come back fifth on the ladder, beating the resurgent Eagles in Perth 11-11-77 to the West Coast 11-5-71. Welcome back to the Don Pod. I am joined by the sagacious Nathan. Good afternoon.
Don't know what that
to
means,
you.
but good afternoon, Sam. What does that mean? Sagacious.
I can read it verbatim because I had to look it up. Having or showing keen mental discernment and good judgment.
Oh, well, yes, that's definitely me. Sagacious.
Semicolon, wise or shrewd. I did also have to listen to how it was said because I definitely would have called
Wise
it
or
sagacious.
shrewd? I don't know how I feel about that one. Anyway, I am well, and you yourself? How are you?
Always better off a win, for
Yep.
sure. It wasn't pretty.
Oh, it wasn't pretty, no.
which-
It never is against West Coast. I was at the game last year with the 1 point game at Marvel, and that was not a pretty game of
Well,
football either.
They said on commentary, West Coast were 5 goals up in that game. I must have blocked that out because...
Yeah, I do remember it being in front.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was 5 goals,
Don't know.
but maybe that was the last time we were over there in Perth. Because they did make a comment about
we
how...
thumped them in Perth last year.
Well, I thought they made some comment about how in the last few games we've been pretty close with each other. But anyway.
Maybe aside from that, it was 50 points when we went
No.
over there last year, but that was when they were in the absolute depths of despair.
Mm.
They are a far cry from that
Can I-
now.
Can I also say I quite enjoyed, except for the little bit of parochialness of the commentary, but I enjoyed the commentators because they weren't screamy, shouty, or or off on tangent about how cool they all are or something like that.
Yeah.
They just commentated the game.
Agree. I'm not a huge fan of Schofield because he's a West Coast
Yeah,
Premiership
definitely.
player, and
I
there's
wouldn't mind a
definitely
Victorian in there,
some
just to
bias there. But
like Joe Watson be perfect in that group.
yeah, I can forgive Schofield for that. He's a recent player too, not
Yep.
just some yobbo in the media. So, no, they were really good at pointing out the stuff off the ball, the stuff that you don't necessarily pick up on the tally, and as you say, not worrying about their egos or calling Jason Horne-Francis the horny boy.
Who does? That's what BT.
Have a guess. Have a
BT or
guess.
who?
Brian
Oh, yeah.
Taylor, the horny boy. As if that's not the most obvious joke in existence, 1, but 2, appropriate for talent.
How does he
Probably
still
not.
have it? We're off on a tangent already.
Yep,
Sorry.
we are. I'll go
Footy,
through
back to it. Sorry.
the numbers. Yeah. So goal scorers: Merritt and Langford 3 apiece. Peter Wright 2, Stringer, Dersma, and Durham 1 each. Leading possession getters: Darcy Parish back on top with 36. Rusty Martin 32, Merritt 29, and I wanted to sneak Durham in there 25.
Do you reckon Merritt's ever kicked 3 in a game before? I don't remember.
I
him kicking
don't
that.
think so. I can actually find that out. If
And he
you
missed.
like.
Like there was one he kicked over to Perkins.
He was kicking 2. Two on the run. He missed. I seem to
Yeah.
recall.
Mm.
He kicked 3 goals once, and one must have. I see. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He kicked 3.
Yep.
Which I would. I don't think he's ever kicked 3 in a game before. I can scroll through very quick. He kicked 4
but
against Fremantle in 2017.
Yeah, but to go along with 29 touches is a pretty good game of footy.
It's a very good game of football.
Yep.
It's a clear 3 votes again for our boy. He's kicked 3 before against Sydney. That's it. So,
Yep.
yeah, look, we'll go into some player discussions because I've actually done my research this week. You'd be happy to,
Oh, good.
to know.
Oh, good.
Yeah, unheard of, I know.
Well, I think the players' discussion is where it's at for this game because I don't think that's a game you look at for too long. Like it was just a really ugly game. I'm sure a lot of us watched it. It was a game where how we talk about that we sort of sometimes get dragged down to the other team's levels.
Played to the other team level, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too disrespectful to West
No,
Coast. I think
I'm
they've
definitely
made
not- I'm not doing that,
massive gains. And
They have played good footy in the last 4 weeks. There's no doubt about that. 1-2 being competitive in the other 2. Like much
Just-
better than North Melbourne and Hawthorn and all those clubs at the moment.
Yes, and that's a mighty, mighty turnaround from a team that was conceding 100-point losses every game just about last year. So
Yes, that's
I
right. But
wanna
they're
just
still a young
mention-
team, long way off it.
very briefly, Harley Reid didn't do an awful lot. He had 14 disposals, wasn't particularly anything.
He's got his Dusty Martin technique.
The 2 fend-offs on Merritt and then Hobbs 3 seconds later was incredible. I don't care who I go for. That was insane. especially Merritt, who we know can stick a tackle.
And you can see did you see the replay how he tried to push the arm away?
Yeah.
Because he knows that he's smart enough to know that's coming.
Yep.
But I've got to give Harley Reid credit for an 18-year-old to be that strong. But I also think the kid is a massive toss bag. Like was one scene where he bumped, I can't remember who it was, Parrish or someone like that over the boundary line. And he just strutted off with this sort of like, and I thought, yeah, mate, you're wearing the number 9. Now, the last player that walked around like that wearing number 9 for West Coast, his life didn't end too well. And I'm seeing a little bit of similarities there in the way you're playing your 5th game of football or whatever. Just calm the farm, play some good footy.
Bit harsh from you.
I can't handle these arrogant little twerps who have done nothing in senior football yet, but come in number 1 draft pick. Wait until you win something.
Let's just defend him slightly and say that he had more hype on him from 12 months out than most number 1 draft picks.
That's true.
In the last 20 years. And he's lived up to it. He's played good footy. He's strong.
He's played 2 good. His first 3 games were shit. He barely, would have got 10, 12 touches.
He's 18 and he's fending off seasoned footballers.
And I think that's very impressive.
I'm just saying, as an 18-year-old
he doesn't have to be a wanker about it.
No, he doesn't, but it's okay to have a bit of personality.
Okay, we should move on.
We should, because for once we disagree, and that never happens.
Well, you say that.
Unscripted.
Whenever we disagree, but it never happened.
It's not that often, though. Yeah, anyway, back on to our players. I thought the fans were incredible. That's all. Just wanted to mention them.
Oh, yes, the West Australian. There's a good support group over there. We should go to a game one year.
In Perth? I look at it every year and then realise how far away Perth is. And
it's a long walk.
It is a long one. It's a long flight. Could get to New Zealand in less time. Literally. Yeah. First and foremost, Zachy Merritt, 29 touches, 3 goals, 3 tackles, 3 clearances, and he's 3rd in the league for disposals. Nice little 3-3-3-3-3 there. That was unplanned.
What's his, and I know we don't like to talk gambling, but Brownlow.
I think last time I looked, he was second favourite on one particular.
He'd have to be pushing around those numbers, wouldn't he? Like he's a guy that does get votes. We've seen that before when he's had decent years.
He's equal second favourite at the moment. Yeah. Isaac Heaney favourite, Patrick Cripps and Merritt equal.
Patrick Cripps.
He's played some good football. They were talking about Cripper, that he's having a better year than his Brownlow year in terms of numbers. Champion data. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Fair enough. Look, we don't spend a lot of time talking about Zach Merritt because it's just so what we we sort of gloss over it because it's just what we have come to expect. And again, I reiterate, this guy was a pick 26. We certainly weren't overly enthused when he was announced as captain, and he's just
no. It is
I have
funny
no
that
words to describe the man.
The moment he's named captain, we were a bit meh. We were meh.
It was the obvious choice, and we were like,
he wasn't the most inspiring choice. We were like, I guess he's the best, and he's been there long. Yeah. But I must admit, I have turned that view, like it's the way he goes about it, like the tackles. And you can see maybe in the future guys like Durham will take that role on too, like the way he goes about it. And,
If I can just compare him to Goddard, who I know is
was one of your favourites.
Well, one of my favourites, but not particularly liked across the whole supporter base. There's 2 distinct differences in how they go about it, and then sort of explains why Zach is universally loved as opposed to Goddard. Goddard preached the same as what Zach preached. Hard work, professionalism, high standards, all that, but didn't always deliver on those standards he set for his teammates, whereas I don't think there's a single moment I can think of in the last 2 or 3 years where Zach Merritt's lowered his colours.
Well, we talk about this all the time. He doesn't have bad games. His bad games are 27 touches, and he still might, be really influential. Not.
Yeah, there was like round 2 or round 1. We were like, it was pretty quiet, but he had 27 touches.
That's right. Whereas I think maybe too with your boy, he sort of got to the club a bit later in his life. Like Goddard, yeah. He got to the club. Like, was he past his prime? Would you say when he got here?
I would put Goddard in the category of players that came to Essendon and got screwed over by the drug saga.
Yeah, true.
And I feel sorry for him.
He captained us one year, didn't he? Because of that.
He was captain. I feel sorry for him for that more than anything else. I feel like we owe him part of his career, to be completely honest. But
Wow, we didn't know that was happening. Like
No, we didn't,
as
but
in supporters, certainly didn't know it was happening, and I assume that the recruiting people didn't know that was coming. So
yeah, I love the beach. But
Yep.
Zachy Merritt, just keep doing it, son. I'd love to watch Brownlow night with a vested interest in a player from Essendon that can win it. I would love the AFL to also announce at that point that Jobe gets his Brownlow back. But
motherfuckers.
that's it.
Well, I want to while we're there talking about, I want to quickly mention Parish
Yeah, you can mention Das.
DP3.
Yeah.
I saw a bit of the old Parish.
Oops.
We'd seen it in the Collingwood game, and what I really liked about his game in this one was his ability to get his power running, to get to spots and just create a marking contest. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's
he
interesting.
I didn't look at his numbers, but he would have taken a lot of marks just
If you
uncontested. Oh, right, sorry.
can look at the run sheet, 36 touches, 5 tackles, 6 clearances, and a game high 11 marks. So somewhat impressive that you've reeled that off, and then I've told you that he had game high 11 marks. But
See what I do?
I do like this list for a reason.
I know, but that stood out to me. What stood out to me watching the game was that he was running to space to give options to get out of our back half. A lot of those marks would have been in the back 80 sort of meter range.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sign of a really good midfielder that's trying to, help his defenders and help the forwards. So the forwards don't have to get caught up there. He can do that work, get up, take the mark, take the kick. Now, Parish's knock has always been his kicking. And there were a few butchers again.
I was going to mention that. So he had 36 disposals, 22 kicks, 14 handballs. I just think there's a way which we could do this where maybe he doesn't have to kick so often. I get that he's the outside run sometimes, but his greatest asset is winning the football and getting the clearance out. So,
but Stuz has taken a bit of that.
Yeah, but can we structure some of this so he doesn't have to kick quite as often? Because they are never drop punts. They always float. And I know you said last week about James Hird and his floaters. I can guarantee you Darcy Parish is not meaning those floaters.
He's not. No, he wasn't in that league. I'll tell you what, though, Martin's kicks are fucking starting to shit me a bit.
Yeah. Well, we touched on this last week. We mentioned last week that he needs to stop the worm burners, and I think he only had one last night.
There was more than one. Sometimes he had one kick smothered that I felt like he was just trying to kick it like it wasn't really smothered. He kicked it into the guy's stomach.
Yeah, it was the guy's guts. That was Waterman at the end. Yeah.
Maybe you could just kick a little bit high, try and kick over the guy that's in front of you. Sometimes, and there was another kick too that he kicked it just too low to someone leading him. Sometimes kicks that just loop and land in front of the player leading are really good. It doesn't always have to be a bullet at him. Well, anyway, I'm not having a go at Martin here at the moment. I'm just... we all have a kicking.
Well, it's the license he has, I suppose. While we're on too many M's. While we're on Murray.
Wouldn't he be a good player?
Merritt, yes, I would love that.
Christ,
I'm not even drinking beer. It's Coke. While we're on Martin, 32 touches.
I want to call him Murray.
Murray. Just be a good player. 32 touches, team high 630 metres gained, and he's now second in the league for disposals.
Oh, really?
Behind Harry Sheasel of all players.
Well, and he's been having a pretty cruising run in that halfback role.
There's a slight asterisk in that is Sunday morning, so there might be
of course, a few
players
games
today that take over that. But
it's really become a role that halfback, real. I wouldn't call it boots halfback.
I have absolutely nicked this from the commentary team, as you described. They were really good at picking stuff up. He's just in the right spot so goddamn often.
Yeah, and that's his football brain. He reads the play, like that first possession. Like he took the first mark. He
had 10 intercept possessions of his 32. So just
and. I guess that's his now. What are we, round 10? Whatever. I don't understand the rounds anymore.
We are round 8, I believe.
Yeah, whatever. Well, is it counting the 0? But he's now played 8 games in as that halfback. It's like also the other one. I know you don't have him on the sheet, but I'm starting to see Ben, Harry's brother, get better too.
Yeah, we'll talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, but he's starting. You can see that they're starting to. It's just that whole playing footy together, now 8
synergy.
Games. Yeah, synergy. That's the word.
That was the buzzword. So I went to the preseason player sponsor thing, and it was synergy. That was what. And Harry, damn it, Ben mentioned it. a number of times, and so did McGrath when they were interviewed.
Did I throw you out by saying like Ben, Harry's brother?
I'll get it right one day. Normally this is your game.
That's why I can't do names.
Stuff ups. Murray, Harry.
Murray and Harry.
Jesus.
Murray and Harry. Imagine if we had a Harry Murray.
Harry. Oh, wow.
We could have a mystery player called Harry Murray. Three votes, Harry Murray.
Anyway, it's a good point you make because synergy, it is starting to all come together.
And I guess I was just going to say the negative there is that Ridley has missed out on all that, being injured, and he'd be a really good one to have.
And we have a bit of a conversation about that later on in the Laverde category because there's plenty to talk about. The list of good players, however, is quite long, so I'll keep running through them. One we maybe should have started with is Sammy Durham, who had 25 touches, 3 tackles, 7 clearances, 6 of them at stoppages and a goal. I don't remember seeing an Essendon player hit the ball so hard.
Coming out of stoppages, the way,
the acceleration and the speed and the silk.
With passing, his skill by foot is really showing.
I reiterate how confused I was that he was in the middle pre-season and round 1, the very first bounce, he was in the guts, and I went, I don't really understand that.
And again, we didn't see much in those first few rounds. I'll be honest.
Well, it was that Bulldogs game against Bont where all of a sudden we went, oh, wow, okay.
And maybe his own confidence grew there. Like he thought, wow, here I am. I'm playing against one of the better football players floating around the game, and I've done a pretty good job.
And I did see, too, that Sydney wanted him.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah,
and they thought their only competition was Richmond.
Yep. And then we jumped in. Oh, Jackets.
I enjoy that because sometimes I feel like we're not a real football team.
You could see him playing at Sydney.
Yeah.
And
you'd go, what a great pickup by Sydney.
Well,
Jeez, what a player. Yeah, and we got one. And you couple that with Martin, who got plenty of mentions as the fact he could have played for West Coast last night.
Oh,
that was nice.
Still think, how did they miss him?
It's just a little bit of a puffy chest out for the club because we've had so many L's.
I will say too, I was last night's game. The highlight for me was more the players, and it was guys like Perkins, and they were all very young, like the Caldwells, the Perkins, the Durhams, the Martins.
And we've talked about this too, that we're not relying on Merritt and Parrish. I mean, Parrish had a great game.
Merritt played on the wing or something like that for most. Like he was in the mid a bit, but he was outside. He was up for that's how he kicked 3 goals. He was up forward.
Yeah, and I say we're not reliant on them to win the football, not to win the game. Obviously, Merritt. And
we still want them to do the thing, but this is the great stepping that we've talking about, the evolution.
Yes, evolution, good word. Very quickly, I just want to mention a couple more good efforts or good players from the night. Mason Redmond, he had 20 touches. He went at a very low percentage, but there was a kick from Nick Cox off the half-back line into the middle that didn't quite hit him, and he just charged at the footy, managed to bounce off 1 or 2 West Coast players and kept the ball. It was really good. Like we turned the ball over there. It was literally in the centre circle. We turned the ball over there. We were Gonskis down the other end. So 11 intercept and 558 metres gained. So just wanted to note that.
No, it was good.
Langford, 3 goals, 3, 4 tackles inside 50, and he's now 6th in the Coleman, again with that same asterisk that it's Sunday morning.
Yep.
Numbers.
He's kicking starting to annoy me a little bit. Him and bloody Stringer.
Yeah, Stringer's got some real issues.
He's got some real
yips from 20 out.
Yep.
Langford did kick one early in the 4th quarter from about 45 on a tough angle, and I sat there and went, okay, good. There's no sort of recurring yips from last week, but then he missed a easier one later on. And again, Foley process, that'll get better. And Xavier Dersma, 22 touches, a goal, 4 tackles, 2 clearances. Again, just a bit of a running machine. He is in the forward 50, then he's in the back 50, then he's in the forward 50. Great pickup. Loving him as a pure winger.
And the other one I see you don't have on your list, but I want to just quickly mention again is Cox. Again, some of his marking for he's using that height against the other wingman he's playing on. He's on Kelly a couple of times. I don't know if that was the actual matchup, but that's just sort of how it evolved. And he just used his height really well to take those marks. And
I actually looked at.
He butchered a few kicks. But
he had 4 clearances from stoppage, 4 stoppage clearances.
So I really, again, he's evolving. He's and it's just continuity in playing. He's played every game this year. He's getting slightly better every time we see him. That's all we talk about.
Different role to what he was playing round 1. Because, I mean, he got, again, it was mostly because Zach Reed got injured at half time, but he went down to that key back role, and I reckon they've gone, okay, Not now. Maybe if he gets a bit stronger, that's an option. But
Well, it's
chucked
a
him
great
back on the wing,
flexibility. Yeah,
and now he's sort of that wing halfback or defensive winger.
defensive winger.
Don't know
Yeah,
how
it's a
you
great
describe it.
flexibility to
Yeah.
have of him. Is he can roll to the back,
Which was
help out.
always his upside, was the fact he was 2 meters tall and could run all day. And
200.
yeah, who'd have thunk it? I've got a category here for I don't know players, and that's occupied by one person, and that is Jake Kelly. So when I watched it last night, I was playing games with mates, and I wasn't paying complete attention to it. And the one thing that stuck out to me was the goal West Coast kicked when Kelly was running back to the goal line.
Into the goal spot, yeah.
And the guy stuck the foot out and kicked the goal. And it was
Kelly
just such a shit effort to not rush that through. It was reminiscent of James Stewart trying to paddle it through a couple of years ago.
The Sydney game, wasn't it?
Fit prick. But then I watched the replay this morning, and he played on Liam Ryan, who first game back for him, so slight, grain of salt there. But Liam Ryan, I say this a lot, is the kind of guy that would kick 3 or 4 against us and make us look foolish. And I didn't notice it as much second half, but certainly first half, that matchup was working well for us. He had 19 touches at 90% too.
Yep. So here's my 2 thoughts on Jake Kelly. The positives at the moment is that he's defending small forwards really well. He's doing that, just playing that man-on-man game really well. And it's him, and we'll mention a bit later, Laverde. They have moments, I don't know what to call dumb moments. Like they just have moments where you go, what the like not smart football moment. And that moment's one where he should have
sprinted his ass off and
just smacked it as hard as he can against the fence.
Yep.
And I think he was worried. I think it was that moment where he thought, oh, will it be called deliberate? Like I really thought that was half his brain. Thought, I'll just try and.
He's not alone in that either. Plenty of players.
But Essendon defenders in that last 10 metres, something happens to all their brains where they really shit themselves.
Go to shit. Except for
McCarthy. And I see some of the stupidest moments. Punch the fucking thing over the line. You're allowed. There's pressure on you. Get it over the point post. Claim the ball back. Like they all just, don't know.
I will say there was some suspect umpiring, so I can forgive.
One moment I want to bring up was the mark, and it was against Laverde by Waterman. And Waterman was ripping his jumper off him when he marked.
Lav looked
Laverde's
at the
jumper's
umpire
pulled up. You can see his guts.
Yeah.
And they called it a mark. I'm like, well, hang on. If that's the other way around, that's the forward. If Laverde was the forward, that's the forward's free kick all day.
Yeah, well, we know defenders.
And then thankfully someone tipped over Nick Martin and.
Oh, they reversed it. That's right.
Yeah, they reversed it. But the thing too about the Jake Kelly moment, that put a little fire in their ass, and they kicked the next 3 goals and got back in that game in that third quarter.
And
and that's when the Reed had his little push off moments, and what's his name? The other Williams took a mark.
Which was about the only time in the game they actually got on top of us. To be fair,
but it just started a moment, and we'd had them under control. I would say for most of the game, they'd kicked a few, we'd kicked a few. We'd probably been a bit ordinary. Like I think we had plus 16 inside 50. So for the game, we should have. Probably won it by a bit more, but that's all you need. Home team, over there in the West. Yeah. And all the supporters started getting into them. Yep, they're young. They got a roll on.
Yeah.
It was just that little moment from Jay. And that's what pissed me off the most was can't afford those moments. Can't let them back in.
We talked about with the Adelaide game.
Yeah.
It was a free kick out of the middle and 50.
Yeah.
Last week, Anzac Day, there wasn't really a moment, but again, Collingwood got on that run with the 5 goals, I think it was.
But the difference there is there's not such a home crowd. Like, that was we were at that game. It's a fairly even crowd.
I will say Collingwood beating Carlton has added some respect points in my mind to Anzac Day and that outcome.
I felt the same too. I was like, see, we didn't do that. We
did good. Yeah.
It was one of those beautiful moments too, where I was just barracking for both teams to lose. Like I'm like, I don't care who loses this. I'm happy either way.
Purely from the Essendon perspective, I was on Collingwood because Collingwood winning that game was better for us in terms of our performance on Anzac Day, and it also gave us the chance to go top 4. But Melbourne ruined that by.
Oh, but that's okay. I'm happy to see Geelong lose. Yeah. Happy to see Geelong lose.
Yeah, we'll get to that in Around the Grounds because I have some opinions on a particular Collingwood player who I've never watched with the lens of supporting Collingwood or wanting Collingwood to win. So
okay, this will be interesting.
I've got a meh category to finish off
Meh.
with. Meh. I'll start with Davey Jr. because I've got some numbers there to support my opinion. 4 disposals. He had 1 tackle and 1 score involvement. He had 12 pressure acts, which was ranked 15th in the team.
And that's, I assume pressure act is that chasing.
Chasing, it's I don't know what defines it, but you use your imagination, I guess. Pressure act. What's a pressure act? He had 12
Coming from
of
the
them.
side. Pressure.
12 of them. Perkins and Cox had 23 as the game high. So he's there for that, really. If he was leading the team for pressure acts but didn't have a disposal, well, I mean, he's got to have some football, but I'd be okay. But to be that far down the list in the team and not kicking goals, not making tackles, not doing really anything.
I think, not really anything. Look, I still, my argument back is who do you replace him with?
I was very surprised Hobbs was a sub, to be honest.
But it's not Hobbs. Hobbs is not a small forward's arsehole.
No, maybe it's Menzies comes back in.
Yep. I get what they're doing because Guelphy was very, very good in his role. Like you could talk about, the pressure he brought to his role, and he was, and that's what Davies, expected to do as well. He's not getting the goals or probably the extra possessions, but I couldn't see Hobbs or even Sardis play that role because you're playing him well out of position.
So we're saying he's just there through circumstance, and if Jai Menzies didn't hurt his shoulder,
possibly yes, possibly.
Okay. Fair enough.
Until someone from the reserves pushes, like if his brother's going to have a couple of games where he kicks 3 or 4, kicks a bag.
Yeah,
that's the only way. But at the moment, we need that small because they're pushing Gresham up to the contest. They were talking about that a lot. He was playing a high half forward role, so you've got to have some small down there. And
it's fair.
It's not Hobbs for me,
but it was still a poor game. And
I agree.
He's too green. I don't have an issue with him, but I just
it's a bit yellow is the problem I have.
A bit yellow, as in okay,
timid.
But he's green is inexperienced and
I'd just like him to crash in a bit more and maybe accept he's going to have to hurt his body. Like there was a couple of instances where he just turned away from a contest and went, just got to stick your head over the ball there, mate, and just take the whack.
Yeah. The other, so Laverde's on the meh list. I will say in Lav's defence, the final 3 or 2 minutes, he had in their forward 50, shockingly, he's a defender, 3 or 4 or 5 efforts in a row where he stopped them kicking a goal, basically. So this is what we talk about with Lav, heart and soul, or heart of a lion.
But skill of a mouse.
When I saw him on Waterman, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go. Waterman's in form.
Yeah.
One of the most informed forwards in the comp at the minute. I saw a stat. He'd kicked 15 in his last 3 games, Waterman, and 17 in his previous 15 games.
He's been in some super form, no doubt about that.
Holy shit.
And that's never been done before by him in his career, I'm sure of it.
No.
He would never kick more than 4, I reckon, in 2 games straight. Like,
But
I agree with you saying about Laverde. He's heart and soul. He gives it everything. But he burns us so many times with bad decisions or bad skills.
And Waterman took a couple of really good marks. There were a couple of times when even the best defender in the comp probably wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. It was on a lead into space.
Yeah, of course.
But
and I think this comes back to the Ridley, possibly Reed argument, about but they're the players. I don't know who comes in for Reed at the moment. But Ridley's clearly the replacement for Laverde. And if you look at that as an upgrade too to our team, and I'm assuming that won't happen until now to the bye rounds, like 12 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, Reed's only 1 or 2 weeks away, and it was Laverde for Reed.
But they're going to play him in the VFL. Like they can't just bring those guys out of those 2 injuries they've just come off, especially Ridley's injury. You can't just come back to seniors football. You have to play a reserves game and just get through 3/4 of it, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. Depends.
I don't care who you are. Sometimes I'm like Shields had to play 2 games in the VFL and he's still stuck in there.
Yeah.
But I just Laverde. I agree, he gives it everything, but I just can't handle some of his decisions and skills.
That multiple effort in the last couple of minutes was game saving. So I really, really.
That's why I struggle to hate him
in that moment. But cutthroat. Sometimes you're just not good enough.
Well, that's right. You've got to be. You can't just. Oh, he's a really nice guy. This is not what footy is. It's like no, we need someone who's better because that makes our team better. And Ridley's that guy, and that Laverde becomes depth. And then there's guys like Baldwin, maybe Hayes. They try and push into that spot as well.
We've got Goldstein in here, and I have to say, first and foremost, congratulations to the big fella. 10,000 hitouts.
Most
is a lot, and it's about 2,500 more than next best Sandilands.
And it's a lot more than Gawn, who I don't know, he probably hasn't played as many games, but a lot less. There was 3,000 or 4,000 left.
It's kind of mental to me that he has as many hitouts as Pendlebury does disposals.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That's fascinating.
It's insane to me. Stats, the numbers, he won the ruck contest thoroughly. I think around the ground, I didn't particularly like him, which I guess is the benefit of having someone like Williams for West Coast that's a bit more agile. Yep.
And that's where they got us.
I don't see the value of playing Goldstein alone.
I'm really confused by this. This is my only issue at the club at the moment. I don't get this playing this 34-year-old ruckman. I know he's very good.
Thing?
Well, but why wouldn't our boy Brian Nick get a game? Like, why wouldn't they play him
by himself or with Goldstein? Do you mean?
Bit of both. Like, I don't know. When does he get an opportunity? Because I thought against Williams is the perfect opportunity for a young ruckman to come in against it. Like,
I swear Brian's only ever played against West Coast too. I seem to remember every time we go to Perth, him playing.
Yeah.
Bit of a break.
Goldstein is wonderful, but he's not leading us to the promised land. Because what frustrates me about Gold is why I had him on the is a couple of things like that 50-meter penalty.
Oh, I thought that was harsh.
But it was there. He knocked the ball out of the guy's hand.
I
don't care. He knocked the ball out of his hand. And it's also, sometimes his ruck contests, I know he wins a lot, but he also does not compete in some. Like, he just sometimes goes, no, I don't think I'll try in this one. And I watch it go, come on.
I was surprised when I read the stats and saw how dominant he was by numbers. And I've got it further down the list to talk about the rucks in general, because there were other factors that made me sad to watch. But we'll keep rolling through.
Yep.
And I'll give you some match stats.
Yep.
Plus 44 disposals, plus 8 kicks, plus 36 handballs, and actually minus 2 contested possessions. Plus 16 inside 50s, as you touched on. That's another real shellacking in that department.
We're just not converting those at the moment.
Yep. Minus 6 free kicks, and in brackets I've got boo, because apparently like West Coast supporters were still booing at full time. But anyway.
A lot of high tackles too. That was really frustrating.
And holding the ball only existed for them. There were times, like Goldie got done in the forward pocket when he had about 0.7 of a second to get rid of it. And the commentary didn't even blink. And I was like, he barely even picked up the fucking football. Like, anyway, I'll never understand that home ground advantage. Plus 25 hitouts, which equated to plus 1 clearance, which was a stoppage clearance.
Well, that was the fascinating part, is the clearances were pretty much all dead even. And that's probably the I don't know if it's the disappointing thing for us or the impressive thing from them. Well, I guess time will tell.
I reckon at half time it would have been well up. Tim Kelly was the one that really rocked up second half and started winning the football.
And Yo went off in the
Yo
quarter.
did go
and
off.
He's been going all right too.
Yeah. Plus 14 marks, 12 apiece marks inside 50, and minus 1 contested mark. Plus 22 tackles.
That's good.
Yeah. Plus 7 marks inside 50. That's a pretty big plus for us. And of the 124 minutes and 16 seconds available, we spent 121 minutes and 30 seconds in front.
And won it by 6 points.
Which annoys me.
How to read that.
No. So the game generally, and I mean, we've kind of touched on a bit of this with the
players.
The player conversation. Have you tweaked my bloody run sheet here?
No. Jesus.
I must have deleted stuff.
The cheek of you. Like I'm thinking I'm typing stuff. I don't.
Well, you did add stuff before, and I can blame you rather than blame myself. It is the easier option of the two.
That's understandable.
So we scored 7 goals from turnovers. which is a different avenue to goal for us. 3 from stoppages, and I don't believe we kicked 1 from a centre clearance. So that's a first this year.
Yeah,
That's been our main avenue to goal. They only kicked 2 from turnovers, not counting free kicks as turnovers. I don't really know how they fit into that category. But they kicked 6 from stoppages, so 4 from stoppages, 2 from centre bounce, which, again, when you think of where our strength has been in that department, that's a little bit disappointing as well. But God, I'm having a hard time of it today. One of their goals came from a defensive 50 turnover for them. We had the ball. Verde got a free kick, took a mark at half back. They gave away a 50.
Yep.
Verde rushed in, kicked it inside 50, kicked it straight to them. They went down the other end and kicked a goal.
That's what I'm talking about with Verde. Like.
Kills me.
Oh, that kills me because he's like running in. Like, surely you can just stop and go, okay, what are my options?
Either stop
and he was
assess,
just focused on pointing at the player, going, "Come on, give me another 50, give me another 50." Instead of looking your head up and go, "Where am I kicking this?"
Or pass it off to your kickers.
Yeah. Because he didn't even, like, it wasn't like he just missed the target.
It was a shit kick, yeah.
Oh, there was just one Eagle player by himself that took the mark. I'm like, well, who the fuck was that to? Like, what happened there?
And they went down the other end and kicked it up.
And that's what happened. That still was happening to us, where we turned it over there and all our defenders were just out of position.
Look, just annoying shit like that is going to stop us from being top 6
good teams.
Or top 8 or...
Especially GWS next week, they'll just destroy us. The tsunami will run over the top.
Yes. So on the positive sides, our last 4 scores against 67, 75, 85, 71. Obviously, the 85 is the highest number there. That was also the draw against Collingwood. So we have really fixed up that defence.
Scoring. Yeah.
If we're going to lose by a goal, much better it'd be 71, 77 than anything higher. Defence first, I'm still okay with that way of thinking.
Yep. And this is something we talked about last week, is that we've been trying to drag those numbers down, and we seem to be doing it in the last 4 weeks, which is just a small survey of data, but it is looking better.
We have to note here that we haven't lost since that Port Adelaide game.
That's true.
It was the last time we lost. So I think I'm right in saying that, because we only lost the 2. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have any shame losing to Port, and Sydney in Sydney. Sydney just touched up GWS.
The Sydney one, we were okay. We scored freely. Yeah. It was just going back the other way. They killed us. The Port one was the one where you go,
well, just an anomaly.
Seemingly, they always say that you learn more from your losses.
Yeah.
And it seems like we've learned a little bit. One of them might be that Port Adelaide's a bit of a flat track bully, but we'll get to that.
Well, yeah, that seemed to be. Yep.
After my masterclass last week of identifying Stringer and DeGoey in the middle, I was keeping a particular eye on that this week.
Throwing himself up.
I'm going to hang my hat on that all year.
No, fair enough. You do that, buddy.
There wasn't really the same sort of thing this week. So I took note of who was on who and when. Stringer was on Yo at times, but then switched to Kelly at different bounces or different stoppages. All of Durham, Merritt and Parrish spent time on Harley Reid.
And can I jump in there? There was also some really strange centre setups where Parrish was at one end by himself, and Reid was at the other end by himself. And it was like, because I assumed, we were winning the ruck hit-outs, that was us being ultra-aggressive.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And Durham
I didn't like it, but...
No. Durham also spent time on Yo when he was on the ground as well. So no real consistency there. But again, I like Stringer being rolled through where we've identified that Yo's a bigger body.
Yep. And that's what Stringer does. He just gives that matchup just a bit of strength in when those, you can throw him in there a lot. You don't have to throw him in there heaps.
Do you think we might see less of when Setterfield comes back? Is that sort of his...
Possibly, because Setterfield can deal with that sort of stuff. But you also, and on the other flip side of that, you don't want to burn Stringer out because he's been pretty good. His kicking is been atrocious.
He's still kicking a goal a game.
But he's just the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's just missing pretty,
Simple ones.
30-meter shots,
But he's
Um,
hitting the scoreboard still, which I
yeah,
like.
yeah, definitely. He's playing good footy, but I hope that we can get him through the whole season without an injury. And if that's like I saw, for example, Freo today, they had Fife as the sub.
Sub, yep.
Yeah, in the Richmond game, because I guess they went in. I think they won it pretty easy, and they were in front by a bit when I looked before.
Freo
I guess
won
they
by
were
54.
Yeah, so I guess they went in with that sort of no, we should win this. Let's rest our players, and I respect that. I think that's clever. I think that's clever coaching. You have to do that at some stage with the senior players.
It's a luxury some clubs
Geelong
have.
made a career out of it.
Geelong do it,
Yeah.
and I find it somewhat arrogant that they do it. I'm pretty sure they rested Tomahawk against Carlton, so not even the fact that it was a big game against a good opponent and they were still able to win the game of football.
But I respect that they do it because it's got to be great for the players. Like the players
keeps them fresh, keeps them It's a
especially. I mean, Fife would be 32. I'm
old,
guessing.
Yeah.
Stringer would be our second oldest. I think Merritt might even. Oh no, be 30. He can be nearly our
Stringer's
oldest.
just turned 30.
Yeah, behind Dyson. Dyson will be the oldest at 31. And the difference there is Dyson's never had injuries. I don't remember him ever having a long-term injury in his career. He's always sort of...
Yeah,
whereas Stringer obviously deals with his shit.
Fife is 32. Good call from you.
Great player in that Five. Loved him.
I loved him. Yeah, I love him too. He's great. So we've talked about the other matchups. I had a note there to talk about Kelly and Liam Ryan, which we've covered. You wanted to talk about brain fans in general, which I think we've covered, typified by the Kelly non-rushing of the behind.
Yep.
And also that Laverde and Waterman did not work. I would have almost liked to have seen us change that. I wouldn't have minded, say, Laverde go to Darling. Darling's a bigger body, but not as good a footballer.
House.
Yes, he's
God, he just looks so disinterested in the game at stage. Like,
and then
a number of times he got tackled, he's like, nah, just take the tackles on.
Get Mackay onto Waterman, I think, might have been a change. I know he did a little bit. I mean, they always sort of chop and change, but for the most part, it was Laverde.
Well, here was an interesting thing too. I noticed there was a little snippet of from before the game, maybe even the Friday of the players arriving, and they had Wiedering,
traveling,
and
Wiedemann, you're right.
Wiedemann, yeah. And I thought, well, he's been playing pretty good as a key back in the VFL. I thought, I wouldn't even mind that, to be honest.
It's a weird one. I wouldn't have thought he was close to being a fringe player at this point in time.
Well, I'm just saying that like size wise,
we gave ourselves options.
We've talked about this for a long time. The Laverde's played a lot of times outsized, and Wiedemann's bigger than him. There's no doubts about that. I'm guessing 4 or 5 centimeters taller and probably a couple of kilos heavier. Anyway, just a thought. You've got Durham as a fucking superstar.
Durham is a fucking superstar, which again we kind of touched on earlier, but I write like that, not for your not for my benefit to even say that verbatim, but just to emphasize that
hasn't he just
it's
turned,
the emotion that I have when I watch that is like, oh my God, what did we do to deserve this guy?
Yep. And again,
it's that cost us nothing.
Yep.
I love it.
Richmond. Thank you, Richmond. And again, 50 games he's just hit for us, didn't he?
Yeah, 50? A couple of weeks ago.
Yep, and similar to Nick Martin, he hit 50 a few games ago too, maybe late last year.
I love the money ball. I love the freebies. And look, it probably comes from Dylan Shield entirely in that we paid so much for him.
Yeah.
It was such a letdown. Peter Wright.
Whereas we've got potential All-Australians in those two guys.
Yeah. I mean, right now, Zach Merritt's an obvious All-Australian. If Durham keeps playing the way he's playing...
You have to tell me Nick Martin would be close to All-Australian halfback.
Yeah. Look, they're in the close. 40 at this point. So
I agree, in the 40.
I could forgive Martin.
The long season ahead, but
wow. And the last thing I've got on my list here is the rucks. So I hated the ruck, is what I've written. Stats suggest Goldstein won the battle, but he didn't feel overly dominant, which we've talked about. Langford was rucking in the forward line while Wright was relieving.
I don't like Wright as a ruckman.
No, neither do I.
Just doesn't have the spirit for it.
Is meh. What I fucking hated, and I'd be keen for your opinion on this, Mr. Ruckman, was the fact that Ben Mackay was rucking in the defensive 50.
Don't like that either.
What? That shouldn't happen.
No, because then we've lost a big man down there. And this is the thing I didn't understand. So we've been playing 2 ruckmen all year. Draper gets injured. You've got a good kid in Nick
Brian.
Brian, and we don't pick him. And I'm
But
going,
do you think,
well,
is that a little bit because we were so tall last week and it hurt us a little bit? We can't get away with a team that tall, so you have to drop Harry Jones then.
Does Draper
Brian.
come in and Goldstein go out when Draper's fit?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, let's see if that happens.
Yeah, valid.
Because if that happens, then I'm okay with it.
Valid.
I personally think I would prefer that, but I don't love Wright in the ruck. I would love to see.
I think we have to play 2
Cox. I'd love to see Cox doing it instead.
Yeah, maybe that's fine. Either way, Ben Mackay should never be in a ruck contest in the defensive 50. Peter Wright needed to haul his ass down there if he was rucking at that point in time.
Yep. Or
as a ruckman, you get around the ground. I can forgive the forward line. I don't care about that. It's less.
Well, I think the forward line's practical because you got the ruck sitting out for the kick.
Yeah. Back line, no, never. I hated it. I don't know if Ben Mackay's ever done a ruck contest in his life.
Ben Mackay.
Correction too for last week. He has had a draw in his career, so Anzac Day was his second draw.
Well, on Ben Mackay's career, he arrived at the club with his 8 wins.
8, yep.
He's now doubled that in the last.
Not quite.
He's had 4 wins in the last 5, hasn't he?
Yeah, so he's won 5 games at Essendon and he won 8 at North.
Yeah. So he's already passed. We've passed his half mark. So he could be by the bye round. He could have won more games at Essendon.
We are going to have a celebration when he wins his 8th game at the Essendon Football Club, which hopefully comes...
Well, 9th, when we do the 9th.
Well, 9th, okay, yeah.
8
which hopefully comes relatively soon. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
No, let's get to it. It probably could not happen yet.
We will have, a little party for Ben.
Yep.
Look at me getting his name right.
Yeah, like a professional.
Yeah, God. At least we don't talk about other clubs on the podcast about Bevo and...
I still don't have a problem with what he said. I still
No, it's disrespectful. And Brad Scott talked about this in the press conference. We've fought a long time to get some respect back on the Essendon Football Club as a whole, and it undermines that.
You can't tell me that you and I and everyone I've talked to about Bevo aren't thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that's fine. But as a player from another club, you can't do it.
See, this is what confuses me about you. Rules. You can have arrogance on the field.
Yeah, that's where it belongs.
You can't have a little bit of arrogance off the field.
No, it belongs on the field.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a spectator sport. And
because I think he was just saying what we're all thinking personally.
No, that's fine.
Players will be leaving that club, and especially
he may be right, but he's not allowed to say it. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
And Brad Scott spoke very harshly of it, so.
But here's one too about Brad Scott that I've lost a little bit of credit. The Taron Thomas.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah. If he comes to the club, I'm writing a letter.
I don't think he'll come to the club. I think
I'm writing if he keeps
fair.
talking about him the way he talks about him, I'm writing a letter.
I think what Brad Scott might have been suggesting was that he deserves support to improve himself and get better and not be that guy. I don't think
Melbourne have given him a lot of support to be that person.
I don't think Brad Scott was saying that he's going to come and play for Essendon.
No, but you can't tell me that North Melbourne wouldn't have given him everything they could have given him.
Yeah, I know. I'm not defending anything here. I'm just saying.
I know you're not defending. I just think that it's hilarious. And there was something about Cousins, who also was up on charges for things against women. And, it's hilarious that these players all stand around and, and that yet half of them are probably, well, not half, few of them have got charges against them. So how about we all just fucking pull our bootstraps up and be a little bit better people?
It's a really difficult thing to talk about. And it's kind of ironic that it's all come up in a week of women dying at the hands of men and the AFL and the world in general, or politicians.
Yeah. Anyway,
making a point.
Serious topic. Let's move on.
And he doesn't deserve another go at AFL football, but he deserves support to get better, I think, is what the comment might have been.
Yeah, that's got nothing to do with us, though. This is my point: is that Brad Scott doesn't need to make that comment. He can just shut up, and he can have that view, but he does not need to make that comment. As now, he's standing like if you're going to have a go at Sam Draper, he's now representing the Essendon Football Club, and that's what it looks like. He's supporting him.
Yep, that's fair enough. Fair comment. Moving swiftly along because it is a difficult topic to talk about on a not serious at all podcast. we'll do some votes. No one got it
Yes.
right this week. It's hilarious to me that someone guessed the draw last week, but no one managed to guess a 6-point win this week.
Yes, the draw.
I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, and
Mhm.
I apologise in advance. Timur Yakup
You go that. Yeah.
said Essendon by 7. I will note there was multiple, or numerous at least, that said Essendon by 7, but this was the first one that I saw.
Good on the team.
He was very excited that he won a competition. I'm sure he was disappointed that the prize was only to give us his votes. But anyway, maybe bigger and better things.
We'll
in
have
the
to listen
future.
to the podcast at least now and hear his name being
extra.
butchered.
It's an extra watch on the numbers. Merritt 3, Durham 2, and Rusty Martin. What did I call him? Murrett 1.
Murrett. Which is the same as your votes.
Which is the same as my votes. Merritt, Durham, and Murrett. You have gone slightly different.
Yes, I've gone Merritt, Martin, Parrish.
Fair
I thought
enough.
Parrish. Yeah, I really like Parrish's game, as I said. Nothing against Stuz, but
Oh, yeah, I'm not okay with the fact you left him out, actually. I would
Yeah,
have left
no, that's
Martin out, if anyone.
oh really? No, see, I
Yeah.
thought Martin's game was really important too. I thought Stuz was good, but I really
I think everyone's just a little bit intoxicated
That's fine.
with stuff, to be honest.
we're allowed to be slightly different.
Yeah. No, we're not. No issues with that at all. Some socials then. A bit of a quiet week on the socials this week. There weren't a lot of comments, but it was a little
West
bit
Coast.
rushed as well, Saturday night into Sunday recording. So,
Yep.
Daryl and Payne. 2 weeks in a row, we've given up big leads. We need to be putting sides away when we've got those leads. You can win a game in the first half, but we are coming out in the second half with half the intensity we had in the first. That is a difficult sentence, although it makes complete sense. It is valid. It is what we've been talking about, that we let teams back in when we've got 20 or 30 point leads early. We let them back in.
Yep. I guess that just says about where we're at.
It's a bit of maturity.
Yeah, like we're not a good team yet. We're an improved team, I would say. We've seen football this year, and there's still a long way to go. We don't want to
Very
get ahead of
much
ourselves.
improved.
Yeah. But we still, there's still a lot of improvement left. We're not winning premierships or anything this year.
No, God, no.
Yeah, so there's a long way to go. But we're seeing, as we talked about, all our young players are playing good. We're having arguments about, Ruckman have been too old,
Who
or
should play or
defenders,
shouldn't
or
play.
other guys coming. So that's good. These
Yep.
are good situations.
Yep.
We're not North Melbourne.
Give it 3 or 4 years, we might wish we were. David Tabone? I think discipline hurt us tonight. Some silly 50s and free kicks that resulted in goals kept the Eagles in it.
100%.
That was one of my major takeaways. We were
Yeah,
our
100%.
own worst enemy. We
Yep.
we butchered the ball. We
Yep.
gave them free kicks. I remember Guelphy putting the pressure on in the forward pocket and just took the guy's head off.
Yeah. And they
Jesus.
did his knee, that guy, too, by the looks of it.
Oh, that's no
Can't
good.
remember.
He
Yeah,
hurt himself.
I'm pretty sure he's serious. He went off like he was
Yeah, he
subbed
went
out.
off. Yeah.
He was subbed out. Great comment from David. I agree 100% that just the discipline, like those 50s, the tackles were just frustrating. Like that's what you don't do against teams like that over in their
And-
home grounds. Just freaking pull your head in.
Weirdly, it's almost a positive because it's something we're in control of. It doesn't take a lot to be more disciplined. What are you laughing at? You're laughing at the
Just
next
read the
comment?
next one.
Yeah.
And it had me for the first line and a half. Please read it out.
So this one, it pains me to put it in because Jason Cushieri, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He's one of my best mates. But
He's
I
one of your
couldn't-
best mates and you don't know how to say his last name?
Yeah, it's always Cush when I read it because that's his abbreviation on various things.
Come on, mate. Be a better friend.
Now this guy has about 1,000 lame jokes a week, and every so often one of them will hit.
This one hit for me.
This one hit for you.
Come
hit
on, you're
for
building it
several
up.
other
Go.
people. Ben Mackay has been taken to hospital post-game, having trouble with his lungs, can't get enough air in after singing the song this often.
I got to the end of that having trouble with these lungs. I thought, oh, shit. Can't get enough air in after singing. Ah.
Yeah, had him in the first half, not going to lie.
As opposed to at North Melbourne.
Well done, Jace. I
Yeah,
could
that
not
was
put in that. I almost didn't put it in there because I know him, but sometimes
No, that gets my voters.
you have to respect the
I
comment.
was going to give it to David for best comment, but Jason just stepped on him.
Yeah. It's a real shame you don't win anything again for the best comment. We do all this and give absolutely nothing away.
We mentioned their names. Isn't that just enough? Oh,
Woo.
hang on. They should be lucky to be in our
Actually, I have listened to an Essendon podcast in the past, and I was devastated when they didn't pick my comment because I thought I made good points. So
tier.
now
So
I've
you
got
know-
my own podcast. They have more numbers than us, but we won't talk
Oh,
about who
shut
it
up.
is. Yep.
We'll get there one day. We'll-
VFL and next week. So there's no VFL this week.
Could they play fucking 2 games in a row? Like, is it
Just
that hard?
ridiculous. It's so annoying.
Burn the system down. It doesn't work.
But anyway, someone say AFL reserves. Next week we are against the Giants at home. It is a Giant game, haha, against one of the best teams in the comp. I don't see them losing 2 games in a row too often this year.
Well,
They've just had their
Green's
colours
out.
lowered by Sydney. Yeah, Green won't
Tom
play.
Green, he won't play over
Yes,
him.
Tom
and
Green.
Tom Green.
Yeah, no, Green. I was differentiating between Toby.
And neither will
Iden, or was it Brown?
one of them. And I reckon Harry Himmelberg might be in trouble for a tripping.
You don't get suspended for that these days.
Oh, okay.
You
Fuck
only get
me.
fines.
Yeah, well, what
Yeah,
about
no.
the Carlton guy? He punched his own ex-teammate in the back of the head. The arsehole. What a freaking arsehole that act was.
Do you mean
Did you see it?
Lockie Schultz?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, Collingwood punched the Carlton.
yeah. It was a
He's
dumb.
been teammates. He
dumb
punched
thing
him
to do.
square in the back of the head. And I
Yeah.
thought, what a
And
freak act for
he was so
starters.
far back. He had such a long time to change his mind.
Got a swing into it. Like, he got...
didn't.
And then they said, oh, they were ex-teammates. I went, oh, well, that's extra shit now, isn't it? Like,
Anyway,
It's
not
a
about
bit
Collingwood,
long, isn't it?
about Essendon and GWS.
yeah, so
it is
at
at
least they'll
Marvel,
have a
which
couple players out.
we are. I think if I was to pick a venue that we play our best football at the moment, it would be Marvel.
Yeah, with the roof closed, Marvel, we can play our style of quick footy, but
Yeah.
they will move the ball.
Well, they
this
have
is-
the orange tsunami.
This is what's going to happen: is it will kick it forward. Taylor will take the mark,
Mm.
and they'll just go whoosh, down the other end. And
Almost.
Toby Green
need-
will be kicking 5.
I'm assuming that Taylor will go on Peter Wright. You almost need to say to Pete, look, you're not going to kick a goal. Just drag
Can you
him out of every
get him
single
as deep
contest
as you
that you
can?
can, and
Yeah.
we'll try and get Jakey or Jones or whoever else.
I'm not Langford.
Langford, I've got the most obvious one. And let them to kick the snags because
Well, yeah,
Taylor's
I'll
a
be
very
trying
good,
to just stay in the square. Don't leave the
Yeah,
square,
keep him there.
and everyone else kick it to about 30 out. That's just what we've got to do.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
'cause
have
he's
I have a
gonna
lot
take
of
record marks.
respect for the Giants and what they did, particularly
yeah,
later
I
end of
think
last year. They
they're a good team to watch.
Finished with us the year before and then made a prelim, which they lost by a point to the eventual
Yeah.
premiers.
And now they're having a tough run with injuries too.
Yes, they've got Sam Taylor, as you just said. They've got Harry Himmelberg down back. They've got Hogan up forward. They've got Cadman, who's now starting to kick goals. They've got one of the best small forwards going around in Toby Green.
So he won, and
They've got
on that.
Polished,
Happy broke something.
polished midfield with.
Well, they're a bit short there, but yeah,
Kelly. Well, yeah, they are a little bit at the moment.
Green and Caniglio.
Briggs is a
but
very good ruckman.
Briggs will be the fascinating one because he will flog Goldstein.
Yeah.
Because he's going to use his body and kill Goldstein. So this will be an interesting one for me. What they do at the selection there, because I can guarantee that 41 hitouts won't be the same.
I think the last time we played GWS, we lost by 126 points.
Oof.
So-
And Merritt made comment of that after the post game.
I'm glad it's in Melbourne. I mean,
Yes.
we deserve a game in Melbourne. We've been interstate freaking every second week for the last 6
Sounds like it,
weeks.
yes.
I will be happy. Again, this is one of those ones where I've just got to go. It's how we play.
Yeah, agree.
I don't expect us to win. I
Nope.
think their GWS are very good and so far ahead of us
Yep.
at the moment.
I agree.
If we can pinch a win, lid off for sure.
Because we play North the week after
We
that,
play
don't
North
we?
the week after, yes.
Oof.
It's third v fifth. So if you look
Yeah,
at just
yeah.
that, it's
Fascinating.
fascinating.
How about we haven't? I don't think we've made enough note that the fact that we are fifth
We
in
are
them in front of
fifth.
Collingwood, Carlton, and Port.
Yes, and I was talking to a former colleague who goes for Port Adelaide this morning, who you'll know,
Oh yes,
and made mention of.
going in.
He texts me every so often. We chat about footy. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Good bloke, Paddy.
Mm.
I enjoy talking to people about football that are realistic about their own team, and although we all have our biases, he is realistic about his team. I am going to enjoy this week and just enjoy the fact we're above Collingwood, enjoy the fact we're above Carlton. I couldn't give two stuffs about Port Adelaide, but we're
Yeah.
above them on the ladder, and had Geelong have done Melbourne, we'd be top 4. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm keeping you up, are we, sunshine?
Well, it's Sunday afternoon, mate. I've
Yeah, I know.
been doing some chores around the house.
Yeah, anyway, I think we need to enjoy this a little bit more while we can, but we have won by 3 points, a draw, and 6 points in our last 3 games. So forgive us.
Be nice to win one by a lot.
Right. It's not going to be this week.
No, it's not going to be. Hopefully,
Now, all that being said,
for the Melbourne game.
You're going to tip Essendon by 12, aren't you?
Correct.
Okay.
Look, I agree with you 100%. I just want us to give the effort, probably more the Collingwood effort than the West Coast effort, but yeah.
Well, we do play to the level of our opposition, so it kind of works.
So we'll
for
lift
us when
this
we're playing
week.
Better teams.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will say Gants by
Gants.
Calm the Gants. Yeah.
Okay.
By 23.
Okay.
If we can stop the tsunami, I'll be very happy.
We won't.
Yeah, but
It'll
if
just be how many times the tsunami arrives.
that's okay. If we can at least combat that sometimes, I'll be very, very happy. We did it against Collingwood. We surprised me against Collingwood. They got out the back a few times, but given their whole game plan is driven around that, I thought we did very well.
The other thing I'll mention is don't lose to what you know, and that what we know is what we've already just mentioned about Taylor. So don't let him take 12 marks.
Bomb it on his head every single
don't bomb it on his head. Kick to leading forward. So, Langford, Guelphy, Stringer, these guys need to be on the move, leading towards the ball, go with the kick.
He is genuinely the best defender in the competition
at
the moment.
By
so
the length of the Flemington Straight, he's very, very good.
We need to be aware. As you said, that's a great football mantra. Don't lose to what you know.
Yeah. That shits me losing to you watch teams do it, and even the Melbourne game last night, I thought Geelong kicked it to May a lot.
Well, last year on Anzac Day, where 3/4 time we were up by 5 goals, and we knew it was coming. We did nothing to stop it.
Nope.
Anyway, so Saturday 4:35 Marvel, rock up. Be nice to get a nice big crowd.
You going?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Nice.
I'll be there. Around the grounds quickly. Port Adelaide, Flat Track Bullies, 5-goal loss to the Crom. I hate Adelaide. I've really grown a passionate hatred of Adelaide in the last...
Of Adelaide, more than Port Adelaide.
Taylor Walker.
That's
I like Port.
I tipped that one too, I'd like to say.
Nice. So did I, actually.
I could see Adelaide win it. I just I think they'll win that. And I just think they're...
I have respect for Port in areas. Like, I love their midfield. That's about it, actually. I can't stand Charlie.
Well, Rosie broke down again.
Yeah.
So insane.
Carlton lost to Collingwood. Again, kind of like... Oh, I was going to talk about this, wasn't I? I do enjoy Carlton losing, especially when they have such high expectations of that team now. I have never watched Nick Dacos with the view of wanting Collingwood to win.
Yeah, Grace.
Oh my God. I see it.
I don't think I could do that.
The goal he kicked at the end was unreal.
No, beautiful goal.
I am full of...
Studs kicked one fairly nice one for us too.
It wasn't quite the same.
Okay.
I respect what you tried to do there. Very good player. Holy shit. Sydney got the job done against the Giants. Bit of a weird one. Piss down rain for the entire third quarter.
Didn't it? Down for a bit, yeah.
Before that, GWS were on top, so maybe we should open the roof if it's going to rain.
Yeah, I don't think that was the problem. I think their soldiers ran out. They looked exhausted, I thought, in parts of that game. They looked like they'd run out of run. So hopefully our what are we on? We're on a 7-day break, aren't we? 7-day
break,
game,
coming off 9 days.
A bit of flight,
well,
yeah. So we should be
all right.
Yeah.
St Kilda beat North, nothing to see here. D's and Geelong I did see that. So Collingwood Carlton got 88,000 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Melbourne and Geelong got 50. Sorry.
What is
Your top 4 teams, like that needs to get more than 50,000.
Did Geelong people travel to watch? Like, did they leave Geelong to watch their team play?
The Melbourne supporters are up Mount Hotham.
But Melbourne's never had. Well, it's not quite ready at that time of the season yet. It's still warm up there, mate. Trust me, I know. Did Melbourne have never had a big supporter base though? Like even when they
were winning flags, they filled that members
wasn't
section.
that long ago.
No, their own members section as well as the MCC.
But even then they weren't. They didn't have massive crowds.
Anyway, do better, Geelong, Melbourne. If that's a final, that gets 70 or 80. Come on.
You think?
Essendon beat West Coast. Yes, forgot about that one. And Fremantle have dismantled Richmond. And
we have a Richmond 2 coming up in a few weeks, don't we?
Yeah, Dreamtime, end of May.
Yeah. Hopefully we can beat them too.
Bulldogs and Hawthorns just started. Dogs kicked the first 2 goals, and then Brisbane and Gold Coast this afternoon. I'll be watching that one with a bit of interest because
I
sure about
too.
Brisbane.
I think the Suns could win that one, and that would be the end. I reckon
that would be disaster class for Brisbane.
Well, that would be. You think that they can't make the 8 from there because they're 2 and whatever at the moment, aren't they? I think they're only 2 wins.
They have won 2 games. Yes, they are currently 14.
So 2 and 6 is that? No, 2 and 5. Is that?
It'll be after 8 games, 2 and 6. You're right.
Yeah. So
I look at the ladder and go, who can drop out? We're the obvious one.
Yep.
But you've also got Western Bulldogs, St Kilda and Brisbane, all of whom expected finals, and Adelaide, to be fair. And Freo are 9th. So, Jesus, it's going to be tight come the end of the year. There's going to be some good teams miss out. And if we can actually squeeze ourselves in that top 8, that's a massive...
I'd be happy to see us drop out just from some close games towards the end. And look, I think, Collingwood easily should be in there. And
Collingwood are in there.
Well, not at the moment.
They're
I must have the live one.
Present.
I've got the live. So if the doggies win.
Dogs overtake the...
No, they don't.
They can't.
Collingwood is still 9th in mine. What are you looking at?
Unless Freo haven't moved. Yeah, Freo haven't moved.
Yeah.
So apologies.
Are you looking at the AFL one or some other weird one?
No, the AFL one. Anyway,
Collingwood
this is
9th in mine.
boring content.
Yeah, let's wrap this.
Wrap it up.
Do the wee-wees.
Wee-wees. We'll say quickly, Bailey Fritsch up there for goal of the year. The goal he kicked last night late. That was a brilliant goal in the circumstances. Merritt kicked a similar one. I think Merritt's...
Anything they can do, we can do better.
Yeah. Almost inhaled my tongue, man. That was weird.
All right.
On that bombshell, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your company, and we'll be back next week. Go Dons.
Go Bombers.